All right. We are going to get started with our panel discussion. So the first thing I would like you guys to do is pass along the mic. Just introduce yourselves. Maybe, say if you lived in Newtown, if you visited, kind of your connection here and your background here. Richard, want to start us off?
Yes, my name is Richard Wade. I grew up here in Newtown. Lived next door. I'm just glad to be here today. Thank you, folks.
All right.
My name is Joanne Young Price. Don't tell nobody about Mr. Sister. Well, we grew up right here next door to the hall. It's good to be back again.
Talk a little closer in the microphone.
Okay. You heard?
My name is Archie Richmond, and I lived here down the street here for 12 years. From 1952 until 1963, I pastored St. Paul AME Church and principal school in Christiansburg. So, but my home was right down the street here on Gilbert Street, a place where I loved and cherished for a long, long time.
My name is Ginger Wagner, and I lived here in what I call Newtown or Gilbert Street from 1975 to 1980. And I know it's hard to imagine, but there used to be a lane. The road went right around this side of the Oddfellows Hall, and there was a lane, like a driveway, that went back there about half a mile past those stores. And there are 3 houses back there, and I lived back in one of those houses.
My name is Jessie Eves, and I was a weekend visitor to Newtown. Used to come with my friend Alexis, and my aunt, Ravella Kristen, lived probably just a little bit further past where this tent is. It used to be on the corner. It used to be a white house there, which they moved the house up on, I think it's on Giles Road on the corner up there. So the house is still there, and the memories are still here. I mean, we had some wonderful times out here, partying right there, and we'll say dancing in the street. We were in the street because there could so many fit in that building, but we used to have a blast up here. Let me give it to Miss Berger.
You know, I have to give the gab.
We have questions coming.
Give the gab. Give the gab.
I started doing that to the Roseway, but I lived at down what they call the Wash House from about 1950 to 60, I guess. I don't know. Pretty good while. And right down a little road, little alleyway was there.
Same place I lived.
Yeah, the same place that Ginger lived. I think you were living in the house I lived in one time. Didn't you?
I think so. Yeah. We traded.
I enjoyed, I have good memories of this place out here, even though now they've changed it so much that I really don't know where things are, but God brought us up to relive some of the things that we did in Newtown, and we're blessed to have the hall here for the memory of it too. So God bless you, and I'm glad we're here today to celebrate Gilbert Street.
Hello, my name is Alexis Johnson, and I had two great aunts, grandparents, and of course the pastor in the parsonage. But I basically lived in my younger years in Wake Forest. So my mother came from this area, from Blacksburg and on Gilbert Street, and I was a weekender. Me and my sisters and brother, we came up every weekend to stay with my grandparents.
I came up every weekend to eat.
All right, thank you guys. So let's go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about why this neighborhood came to be, why it existed, and a little bit about segregation in Blacksburg and kind of what that meant.
Good question. I really don't have an answer, but the segregation was pretty interesting. It wasn't anything where people were at odds with one another. Everybody got along, especially because if you knew someone like our grandparents, our grandfather, if you knew our grandfather and you told someone, say, 4 or 5 miles from here, you were George Ed's grandson. Well, you're all right, son. Whatever you want, we'll take care of it. We'll look out for it. And that's just the way it was. Everything just went down the line because we basically did what our parents did as far as segregation went. because we didn't know exactly what was happening. But what they did is what we did, because no one told us any different. So segregation was good for us. I mean, there was no problem at all.
Well, growing up out here, and, you know, just everybody in the neighborhood, black, white, yellow, green, we played with each other. We didn't know anything about segregation because that's what we did. The children, it's what your parents instill in you is what makes you a better person. And we just played up there on Main Street. I guess it's still Main Street. It used to be Pepper Street over here, which is no longer in being, and Turner Street. We just a good neighborhood, and we just enjoyed growing up out here. I just wish there was more of it today. Make better people and better children in this world.
Well, you have to be honest, segregation was a problem, because if we had joined hands and walked downtown, you could smell the aroma of the restaurants. And I used to walk, I didn't have a car, walk from here all the way across town. If I got hungry, I couldn't stop anywhere and eat. You wish you could, but we knew that there were the laws, and we obeyed the laws as long as we could. But for people my age, it was a problem. Oftentimes, I would have loved to go downtown the 12 years I pastored here and for lunch or dinner, but I had some friends who could go, and I had white friends and I had black friends. But I have to acknowledge that it was a problem. And we thank God that the day and time changed so that all of us could live together as God's children with equal opportunities and equal facilities. I know many friends who sympathize with me and wouldn't go in a place because they couldn't feed me. They would accept the hospitality. Or if you went somewhere, if you did go, you had to knock on the back door and they would bring you a sandwich. Well, some people would accept that, but I would rather wait until I got home and make my own sandwich than to go to the back door and accept this kind. So it was a problem for me. Now these people are a lot younger than I, but see, I was old enough to live through a lot of that stuff. And well, that's enough for me. I don't want to prejudice everybody else.
Well, I didn't live here during that time, but I have heard stories, particularly like of the Lyric Theater, where they've told me stories about they had to sit up in the balcony and had the best seats, yeah, and had to come in a separate door and things like that. And I was lucky enough to live here in 75 to 80 when all that was over, and I was my roommate and I were the first white people we were told to live and rent a house here. I think it was the Dobbins house, was that right? Leo Price's house. I'm sorry. See, I didn't know them, but anyway. So I was lucky to be here and get to know Mr. Christian and some others.
Well, when I grew up here, I mean, it's like Joanne said, we're in that era where, I mean, we played with our white friends on the weekends from Friday to Sunday, but then on Monday morning you couldn't go to school, the same schools. We went to one school and they went to another school. But we didn't think anything about any difference. It was just what you knew you had to do, and the laws had been passed and you had to abide by them. But, I mean, I had white friends that come and visit, and, you know, we'd stay in the same house, eat at the same table, go out and play together, and, you know, no problem. But I'm glad times have changed and things are a lot different.
Ellen and James bathed in the same bathtub.
I'm in their age group, and eventually I noticed the difference. But when you're growing in Blacksburg, there's just a few numbers of us that did not present too much of a problem for a lot of people to object to. And of course, places like Beach Drive-In, of course, it says drive-in, not sit down. They would come to the curb and take your order. You cannot go in. The Lyric Theater, we went in, paid our money, same price, to go to the movies. We went in, but we couldn't sit on the bottom floor. We had to take the balcony, which eventually, if you think about it, was a good deal. The only problem was, if you had a younger sibling listening and they had to go to the restroom, that was the problem because we weren't allowed to go to the restroom downstairs. So that meant if you were older and your sister or brother had to go to the restroom, you would have to miss almost half of the movie because we'd have to go up to what is now the Hokie House at the time and pay 10 cents. Well, no, we didn't because the young ones, they were small if they went up on the door. To go to the restroom. But some of us, one person had to stand down to hold the door open so that we could get back in. And of course, as we got older, we realized the difference. But when we were children, we didn't. Eventually we noticed that there was a difference and there was a problem. But thank God, it's not as perfect, but there's no utopia, but it's better than what it was.
I think I'm like the oldest one in this group. You know, I never thought of segregation that much. We lived out country out on North Cave Road now, where it is. And after I left from down here and built a house on North Cave Road. But anyway, you know, I guess it didn't bother me that much because we weren't going to those places that much. You know, maybe if we went back to go to the movie, we thought that was something great. We just didn't think about that because we knew we couldn't go up. And I definitely didn't want to go embarrassed saying you can't come in here or something like that. And so it didn't bother me as much because I guess I'm older. So, you know, we did a lot of praying. Did a lot of praying. And God brought us through that kind of stuff. And this day and time now, I don't, that kind of stuff doesn't bother. I don't think about that. That's just went on. And times change, and thank God, you know, nothing stays the same. So God bless, and I'm glad that things are better. I got too old to enjoy a lot of the stuff that's better, so, you know, so. But my son went, he went to school down on, what is it? Down behind, it used to be behind Roses. And I can remember the first day I brought him to school, go to school. I was thinking, well, they're going to throw eggs or something on there or whatever, because that was integrating. They were integrating then. But when I got to the school, and it was the lady sitting back at the end of the doors, and when I went down, took him by the hand, he was going down through there, this lady came up, and it was Miss Beulah Klein. Some of you know her probably.
Oh yeah, John Klein's mom.
And she came up, and she took him by the hand. And she said, you don't have to worry about him. She said, I'm going to take care of him. So she took him by the hand and took him, and every time I tell her, I get filled up because she really took care of him. And I asked her for all the rest of my kids for first grade. So, you know, I don't deal with bad members. I like good members. So whatever happened back in that day, it don't bother me today. God bless you.
Thank you guys for sharing. So, Richard, why don't you start us off, or Joanne, and tell the audience a little bit about this building behind them and kind of why we're here today. And that was built as a result of segregation and kind of how it's evolved into what it is today. Why don't you guys share?
Well, as I remember, my husband's uncle, they used to have square dances there. That's before my time. We got above square dancing when we came along. We used to do the jitterbug, hop, and all that stuff. But I mean, people came from miles around because actually it was the only place that black people could go back in the day to have dances and play cards, bingo, and have baby contests. And all that stuff. And of course, Richard can tell you more about the building, how we used to, have to keep it clean.
Oh yes, we used to have to clean it up every now and again And our job during the winter before the Odd Fellows would meet, our job was to come over and we'll start fire and get the place warm so the gentlemen would have a place for their meeting. And then we'd have the contests and dance and all that stuff. We tried to get the stove as cherry red as we possibly we tried. Well, Joanne tried to burn the building down. I stopped. But anyway, yeah, we used to have a real good time. And like Joanne said, kids came from everywhere. Like Christopher, Bradford, Wake Forest, all over Blacksburg, just to come out here. We'd have basically more kids outside in the street than we had inside, especially in the wintertime because it got so hot in there. And they had to come outside. But it was a great place to live and to watch it what it's grown to now. It's just an amazing thing. It's pretty, but it's different. There's something we have to, it's progress, and we have to live with it.
Well, living the church parson, as I said earlier, was down the street here. You could always walk up the street and hear what's going on at hall here. And so often we did. The Masonic Lodge used to meet here occasionally and other groups, but you kind of enjoyed the fellowship of whatever's going on because it was exciting to see something going on in the same neighborhood that sometime you could participate in if you wish. It's because for a long time it became an opportunity for young people to come have some opportunities to fellowship together as well. So this building has a lot of rich history, as we're so blessed to see it here and preserved. And there was a picture and a little history in the Roanoke Times. Did you all see it? I brought a copy from Roanoke here, and I was glad to see a little the history of this building in Roanoke Times today and what's going on now. But thank God that somebody along the way had the initiative and the forethought to make it possible to keep this building what it is now. A lot of support goes also to Tom, who is here with us today. He gives so much of his time. He gives so much of his time. It's just so good to see a man of his caliber who has so many resources that he's exposed to keep it maintained. But and it's good to see your history preserved. And every time I happen to come back to Blacksburg, I could always come by here and renew some of my time. Because I was a young pastor then, but I enjoy walking up and down the street and meeting with the people in the neighborhood. A lot of my joy was going. I was single and needed good food to eat, and as Alec knows that I would come to her aunt and the other aunts up and down the streets here, and one lady down the street, she gave me dinner every day. So I just had a good time living here in spite of what you had to go through and to see the changes, and I was a part of that change. You know, it's good to live through things, but it's also good when you're a part of it in a positive way. And thank God. I want to say one thing though. These young people don't realize that you had economic problems here. I worked here for the summer, but I worked on a construction job, trying to get money to go back to school. So you didn't see the blacks at Virginia Tech in every position you can think of like you do now. Very few. Most of the people worked at Virginia Tech when I was here were people in kind of meaning and serving types of positions. And this is all available for them then, but time changed and others kind of broke the ice, and little by little they had greater opportunities. But their parents, I dare say, who worked at Virginia Tech at that time, yes, custodian jobs and serving families and things like this. I worked for a while when I got out of school for a few months at the dining hall as kind of vegetable chef. I was peeling tomatoes and things like that. Just gave me a title. I was glad to have that kind of job. Tie me over till I get something better. It wasn't too long before then because I started in the education field that same summer. But you know, you did what you had to do at that time until you could open another door and move higher and maybe get better economic position to make it. Thank God. Anybody else?
Well, I can't really speak to that time, but like I said, I lived here in 1975, and I was lucky to live here before Price's Fork Road was here, and it was just beautiful. It was kind of like a little hidden oasis. A lot of people didn't know that it was here, that Newtown was here, and where I lived, just down the lane, about a half mile, I'd walk down that lane and be full of all kinds of peonies and all kinds of flowers blooming. It was just beautiful. I really loved living here, and I got to know the ladies that lived behind me. Laura Anderson was 107. She was the oldest lady in the county then, and her daughter Nettie was 88, and she had taught music at Christiansburg Institute. And I used to love to go over there and try to talk to them. One of them had loose teeth and I couldn't hear her very well, and the other one couldn't hear me very well, but we tried it. Mr. Christian would come down there and cut our grass and have a big time. And one day I just, for some reason, went around and took a lot of pictures of all the houses, and I take pictures of Laura and Nettie, and so those are some of the few pictures that we have of the old neighborhood. And I was here when a friend of mine started opening. The Oddfellows Hall was closed up, and a friend of mine opened it up to use as a wood shop. And actually, one of my first banjos was made there in 1980. So there was some good things going on back then too when they first opened it.
The part I liked about visiting was I got to go to church at Reverend Richmond's church at St. Paul AME. Got to sing in the choir. We had the little short choir robes. I remember that very well. And then I also remember that Alexis's grandmother and her two aunts were some of the best cooks in the world. They would every weekend we would have homemade rolls and fried apples and eggs and bacon and country ham and you name it, they had it. So from Friday to Sunday evening, you know, we dined sufficiently. And that's what I remember about it. But I remember we have that saying, it takes a whole village to raise a family. And up here, it was like everybody looked out for everyone. And you could do something here. My mom lived in Wake Forest, and she would know it before I even get back to Wake Forest. And you know, and you could correct each other's children. Now you try to correct somebody's child, the parents ready to jump on you and beat you down. But it wasn't that way then. And it was very good memories, because I can remember a lot of times coming up here to the dance, and I was saying that earlier, and we would be all out in the street, and I don't even ever remember the police coming. Of course, there was only 2 red lights in Blacksburg at that time. But those were good days. And you know, out there at University Mall, I remember that was just broom sage all out there, and then cows the rest of the way out. And I think it was 1 red light maybe up here and 1 red light in the middle of downtown on Run Up Street at that time, and that was the only red lights that I can ever remember. But there's a lot more businesses like here then, I think. But those were the good old days.
Just say the good old days.
Talking about policemen in town. We didn't testify to this. When we would sneak out of the house, we thought we got back. But it was a policeman in town named Sergeant
Gillespie.
He would say, George, don't know y'all out here. He'd make us get in the car. He'd bring us straight to the house. He said, all right, y'all, get in the back seat. I'm taking you home, because I know George Ed don't know y'all out in the street. Wouldn't be nobody on the street, but. And Sergeant Gillespie would put us in the car and bring us right home. We had to pay the consequences.
Just because it was George's grandbaby. But like you said, like Reverend Richmond talked about, when the building got struck by a truck or something. One of my old friends named Terry McLaughlin, he called me. He said, Richard, what's happening to the hall? I said, well, I don't know, Terry. he said, well, I'm going downtown and see what's really happening to it. So actually, he's the one that really got the ball rolling on getting this thing restored, getting it right back to where it is today. Which I think, like I said, we used to throw rocks. Well, he used to throw rocks at me. I never threw it. But he moved in from Minnesota or something at the age of 6 or 7. We became friends, and then he got into woodworking and all this kind of stuff. Just a real good friend. So I'm glad he got in touch with me about this thing. Got him set up to where it is now. I'm happy for that.
Policeman, was that Hot Pockets?
No, not a Sergeant Gillespie, no.
Oh, Hot Pockets was down downtown. He
That's
stood,
before my
I know he stood 7 feet tall. I don't know what his real name is. But if you went down and saw Hot Pockets, you'd hide behind the building or something. He looked like a giant. That's the only policeman I remember him because he was so tall.
Well, as Jesse and Reverend Richmond stated in our earlier stuff, my grandparents and great aunts every weekend, and they took turns on Saturday night preparing meals. So that meant my grandmother one Saturday, then the next one be Aunt Maggie Mays, and the next one Aunt Ethel Vaughn. But Sundays we always had after church dinner at my grandmother's. And I don't know anybody, street lights. Ha! We're talking about one policeman, 2 lights. We had one street light. And it was on the corner there. And my great aunt Elsa would turn it on. She'd come out of her house, and there was a little button on the pole, and you had to turn it on. And then, and of course, they went back and forth during the week, visited each other. Becky would go down to Maggie's, and my grandmother would come down, and they would just go back to Maggie's to Ethel's. But before they, in this process of traveling the streets, they would have to turn that one little light on. So that was our Gilbert Street lights. But other than that, it's just like our church was a haven. And then if it wasn't a church, it was the hall. So any activities we had, spiritual or otherwise, it was togetherness. And as Jesse said, everyone raised each other's child. And my grandmother, bless her heart, she was a sweetie. When you get old and you think that you can do what you want to do, and especially when you get to age where you can go out after you've gotten your driver's permit, the first thing was, I don't care how late you get in, you are going to church. And she meant it. And so that meant on Sunday morning, Sunday school, you were out of there, whether you stayed awake during the service or not. You left there. You didn't stay at home. So everything, it was a fantastic experience. It was something, unfortunately, our children won't be able to live or to experience. But it was magnificent. And just like doing all the good things, the bad things, and there's always a silver lining. And right now we're experiencing some of that silver lining. But eventually, and we have experiences like today, a change is going to take place.
Thank you guys. We already kind of briefly touched on this, but if you just would express a little more maybe about your thoughts on what Newtown in this area has become. Maybe some positive, maybe some negative, and just looks completely different, but we were able to preserve some of it. Just your thoughts on that.
I think it's a positive to be recognized, this neighborhood be recognized. I also think it's a positive way that they've redid things. They make the place really look good. It makes you feel good to drive by here and say, well, this is where I used to throw rocks and walk down Reverend Richmond's, and he tell me, what, you're in school and this, that, and the other. But it's been a great thing to watch it progress, and hopefully we stick around here a while longer to watch it grow some more.
It just make me feel good to see Newtown be great again.
Only joking.
I think it's good to always in life to look back, but it's so good to say I wouldn't want to go back to see the wonderful things that are happening now. You can go anywhere, all the facilities and everything in Newtown, everything looks well. You can just have joy just walking the streets, not Gilbert Street, but in the streets. So it's good to know that Newtown is still alive very much in a positive way. You're seeing the things that are happening, the things that we enjoy now that we couldn't enjoy in those days, even though we live with it, but we can enjoy everything that anybody else can enjoy. And it makes you feel good that you're no longer a second-class citizen, but you're first class. And you give God the glory first of all, because it's taken a lot of wonderful people along the way to make a change and to see the beauty of Newtown now and the opportunities we have, all this buildings going on. It's just amazing. I said to my sister there who lives in D.C., she's come to visit me. She didn't know the place today. I had my youngest brother who used to come and spend the summers with me sometime. He doesn't even know the place when he comes back now. But I come back ever so often, and thank the Lord I'm associated with this organization here now, because when I moved back here and retired, this is one of the first places I wanted to go back to things that happened when I had just begun my professional career and saw the unfolding of things in my life. The 12 years I was here, and just wanted to come back and be a part of it, and I'm enjoying it because I see positive things. And my wife Barbara, she worked here for about 25 years. She also comes with me. Both of us just enjoy seeing what's happening this day and time. Come back home, be a part of things, do what you can. You may not be able to do much, but just to be around. So this has been my joy.
Well, I think it's great that the Blacksburg Museum has made this a museum and preserved it, and I've been lucky to hear about it when they were first doing this, before they actually dedicated it as a museum. And I remember having some meetings in there, and it was real hard because there's still nice woods over here, and the old road was there, and we would come to meetings and slowly watch it disappear, and parking deck goes up and everything. But the really good thing about that is I got to meet all these people, because I wouldn't have met them if I wasn't coming back to these meetings, like Jesse and Archie and Joey. So I'm real grateful for that. And that's, to me, the best thing about the Oddfellows is that it brings these people all together again.
Well, I love the progress that we see, and I love the closeness of all the eating places around. And so we have our meetings. I love working with Tom Sherman. He's the chairman of the committee, and I love planning things and help to plan things. So that's what I enjoy doing. Although my husband always say, looking at my planner, it looks like I'm still working. But I just enjoy doing that. I enjoy meeting people and doing things and seeing progress. And it's been an exciting time. And we really enjoyed. I mean, we come for our meeting once a month on the first Mondays of the month, and then we all get together and go out and stay out kind of late sometimes when I get home. But it's a real joy, and really I want to thank the town of Blacksburg for continuing to give us funds to do this, and to thank VT Foundation for supporting it, and Downtown Blacksburg Incorporated, they're going to be involved with the Blues Brews and barbecue event. So each event just keeps getting better. And I want to put in a plug here. If your church want to participate in this gospel event each year, it is an annual event. Just let me know before you leave, so we'll have some more groups to come and participate next year.
Nice. Give it to Pat.
I would like to thank Tom, because he's one of us. You feel like, when he comes, he just falls right in here with us, and he works with us, and I really we should really give him a hand. We love you, Tom. God bless you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the improvements that's taken place on Gilbert Street, Miraculous. I can remember back in the day when some developers from somewhere wanted to move all of us on Gilbert Street down to Grissom Lane. And they would go from house to house, my grandparents' house, my aunts and says, well, we talked to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, they're thinking about selling, so they use this to progress to try to get the land back then. And they wanted to move us down to Grissom Lane, as I said. But I am really, really proud of what it is now. You can eat, get full, get sick, whatever. You can go to a doctor, you can go over here to Velocity, or you can get yourself worked up. I mean, you can drink coffee, you can do whatever, you can burn up on wings or whatever. So it is a great place to come and be entertained, and to eat and enjoy. But most of all, it's great being a part of the whole Gilbert Street experience, the Newtown experience. And God bless each and every one of you.
I don't care what they put out here. We still, it's not this, it's not what it used to be. I don't care. I only bring those big buildings in here, and when I come out here, I feel smothered. But, you know, that's because of my age. The only thing that looked really for me is that little house up there and the hall. But God, you know, this is progress. This is progress. God bless each and every one that came out today, and I think we are just about finished.
We have a couple of audience questions we can go through pretty quickly.
Okay.
So one of the questions is, were there any businesses in Newtown?
No.
Barbershop.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson had a
Mr. Johnson
barber
had a
shop.
barber shop. It used to be Pepper Street, at the end of Gilbert Street.
Before it was Turner Street?
There's now Turner Street.
Yeah.
No more Pepper Street.
So just the barber shop? Got it?
That was
No,
it.
there were no business. You had to go outside of Newtown to get what you need when it came to business and so forth, which wasn't a long walk, but you had, I'd say, a 10 minutes walk to get to any other place where you could get accommodations.
And the same thing probably for school. There were no schools in Newtown. Where did kids go to school around here?
Ooh, let me discuss
Clay
that
Street.
one. Clay Street.
No, we went to Clay Street.
We had it was a school on Clay Street, and it also was a school over there off of Draper, the school, and on Harding Avenue, which a lot of the teachers don't know, that was a little 2-room school when I went to school, and we went there and had one teacher. I can't figure out what they did in the other room though. It was 2 rooms. But anyway, they built on to Harding Avenue to make it Harding Avenue Elementary School now. So we had, and our teacher was,
2 teachers, Jesse, with Mrs. Carroll, which was ours. She taught from 5, 6, and 7, and then there was someone else who did.
was it Miss Dow?
I can't
Dow.
remember.
Miss Dow
Yeah.
taught the younger grades. I'm saying, we never had any reason to go in the other room. But it was good. It was good. But a lot of the teachers up there now, I mentioned to some of to my granddaughter's teachers when she was up there, and I said, "This is where we went to school back in the." I always say back in the day. But anyway, we went up there and they added on to the school, so it was a good experience.
Remember high school, Jesse?
High school? Oh, I don't even want to hear the word bust. Because in high school, we had to go to high school in Christiansburg. And then when I lived in Wake Forest and we had to go to school, that was 11 miles. So our bus left at 7 o'clock in the mornings, and we got to Christiansburg Institute about 20 minutes to 9 because we picked up students in Blacksburg, down on Grissom Lane, Cambria, Vicar, and then we went to Christiansburg Institute. And a lot of times, by the time we get to Blacksburg, Montgomery County will have canceled schools, and there we've come over the worst roads to get up here, and we had to turn around and go back. But then they didn't cancel schools a lot like they do now. I mean, we went, you know, my kids don't like when I say it, we walked 20 miles in knee-deep snow, but They don't like to say that. Up the hill all the way.
Segregation was a handicap for a lot of people now. As I said, I was the principal of Friends Elementary School in Christiansburg, but the students came from Shawsville, Elliston, Rhina, and some other place had to come on buses every day. We enjoyed because you had people who were compassionate and well prepared to help children grow and develop. And that's what I saw in that day and time. Of course, when integration did come, it was to the advantage of a lot of people to go where they could walk to school and things of this nature. Now, it presented a problem even for families. Now, later when I lived here, I got married and we had 2 daughters who were born here. But when we got ready to enroll the daughter into day school or nursery, there was anywhere for us to go, but we enrolled at the Presbyterian Church. Dr. Ellison Smythe was the pastor then. And Dr. Newman was a member of the Presbyterian Church. And he demanded that Dr. Ellison kick our daughter out of the school because he didn't want to see this integration start. But Dr. Ellison was so strong as a pastor, he stood his grounds and wouldn't do it. But what happened, Dr. Newman left the church on that account. But I guess any parent growing up in that day and time would want his or her children to get the best, start early, get where you can get the best for them. But as we attempt to get the best for our daughter doesn't remember anything about it, of course, but we had that problem. And she stayed there, but thanks to Dr. Ellison Smythe, he mentioned in the newspaper that Archie and Richmond was just like twins, but you know, we've had that kind of a relationship. But where you had problems like that, integration was a problem, but thank God the changes came, and we don't regret being separate when we were back there because we had good teachers. We had parents who would support you. You had just as much as we have today, I think, so far as the people give you support. And I never had remember seeing a bad teacher. All of my teachers were, under my supervision, were the best. They would go out of their way to help students grow and develop. And so while there were problems going along and moving from the bus age when everybody's bused back into the communities, integration, but thank God it worked, didn't it? And we don't have that problem anymore in this area. In the big cities now, you're still just as certain as you were in those days. Anybody
Go
else?
that way.
I think you're talking about.
I have one final question. One person can answer this, but someone would like to know, what is the deal with the coffin in the Oddfellows Hall?
Oh, I don't know.
He sneaked in, he ought to know.
I don't know. I don't have any idea. I just remember going upstairs sometime, a couple of times when I was a kid, and they'd ask me, "So what'd you see, Richard?" I said, "I don't know. I don't know what I was looking at." You know, I saw a bunch of like shields and stuff, and spears and stuff like that. But I had no idea what the coffin was for. I still don't. But the questions are always given to me. I don't know because they would say, "Go look, Richard. They won't do anything to you." But I was always the one that they said I knew the password knock too, so they could get in. They had a special knock, and I'd listen to it, and then I'd go knock on it, and they let me in. That's what they say.
Well, it was found upstairs with a lot of the items, and you know, they're so secretive. We don't really know what it was used for, but in the rituals. So
I didn't go upstairs.
yeah, no one ever went upstairs except for Richard.
Also, we used to play out here on the front steps, like Lexus talked about the street light. And the only thing that's left is a fire hydrant and the hall. That's the only thing left of this neighborhood. But we sat on the steps when the Oddfellows were having their meetings, and we used to hear chains rattling. And stuff like that, and I heard, I don't know, like we heard goats. And there's no goats. No goats to be found because, again, I was sent upstairs to see what was up there. No, there's no goat, but we heard that. And all kinds of crazy things. But that was a fun part of that meeting nights is to try to figure out what they're doing and just being nosy, being kids, having a good time.
And one more thing, back in the day, those windows were painted.
Yep, they sure were.
They're halfway up. It
About
was
three-quarters
painted.
of the way
Yeah.
up.
So the only way we could see, we had to stand up on each other's shoulders and pee.
And I was the one on the shoulders.
All right, well, thank you all so much for sharing. Let's give them a round of applause.